Welcome back. This is Lesson 25, Challenges Within Democracy, with a special focus on accountability. Accountability is one of those topics that is a reoccurring theme on the diploma exam. We see it as one of the nuances of the sources in A1, or it can even be some of the language in A2, the essay. Accountability could also be a theme of a set of sources on the multiple choice. So accountability is one of those topics that could be on both parts of the diploma exam. After this lesson, we'd like you to recognize the concept of accountability and its importance to a liberal democracy. One of the related concepts is separation of power and checks and balances that we've talked about in the past. So here we begin with a cartoon about a lack of accountability. And the cartoonist here is targeting then Vice President Dick Cheney, seen as the character on the right, and targeting his policy of cronyism. Dick Cheney, among many politicians, practiced cronyism when he was in a position of power. Most famously, Dick Cheney was, before he was vice president, he was president of a corporation called Halliburton, a corporation that made billions of dollars off the war in Iraq. Now, he's also sitting in a boat duck hunting because an unfortunate side story was Dick Cheney accidentally shot one of his friends while they were duck hunting together. So the judge, the man to his side is sitting in a robe, the judge is saying, "What's this case of yours I'm going to rule on about again? Cronyism." So it's showing a lack of separation of power because one of the instruments of a check of the power of the executive branch is meant to be an independent court system. But the court system has been compromised here because they're friends. And it appears that in this friendship, Dick Cheney has the power to lead his friend to rule as Dick Cheney wants him to rule on this case. So this is a Supreme Court judge that is going to do the bidding of Dick Cheney, which is not the goal of having checks and balances. So that's what's happening in that cartoon. Interesting cartoon to unpack. We have a document here from Thomas Jefferson with some quotes about the importance of accountability. Again, because accountability is one of those topics that is a recurring theme, it's good to dive a little deeper into, what is accountability and some historic thoughts on it. So I thought I'd give you a link to one of the former presidents of the United States, President Thomas Jefferson. The concept of accountability has also been connected to the problem of apathy within governments. And the idea is that if Canadian and American electors see their politicians as unaccountable, then they begin to lose faith in the political process. And we have some election results here that show a declining interest in democracy among the youth. And to some extent, this is the opinion that the youth have, is that those in power simply don't care about them or care for them. And that's why this chart shows that more young people are choosing not to vote than seniors. Do we have accountability in Canada? Should we protest the protest? Should we have accountability when we think that the government is misdirecting our economy or misdirecting our social policies? So I have included some thoughts on accountability in Canada here with regards to climate change activism and pipeline protests. And we've also have some links here, unfortunately, that expose a lot of corruption within government and scandals. So one example would be that Andrew Scheer had called out Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as lacking credibility. Justin Trudeau, unfortunately, ended up humiliating Canada and himself during a trip to India. Justin Trudeau has been linked to the SNC-Lavalin corruption scandal. Justin Trudeau has appeared in black and brown face. Justin Trudeau has taken illegal trips to billionaires, islands, and this list would be much longer now that we've had all of the money that's been directed through COVID-19 towards things like his wife's NGO. But at the same time, Andrew Scheer is no longer the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada because the Conservative Party of Canada themselves found Andrew Scheer guilty of ethical violation. In terms of Andrew Scheer, he was misspending the money of the party. So unfortunately, corruption and character and lack of transparency are reoccurring issues even within democracies. Mike Duffy is a former senator here in Canada that also had a scandal connected to him. And some would suggest that that cost Harper the election in 2015. Here's the issue with Scheer's link. And if you go to the longer list of political scandals in Canada's history, it has it by province and by federal government, and you can see that we've had, a recurring theme of scandals. So one of the topics that you could talk about on an essay is, what kind of government should we have? Now, the logical answer is we need a democracy, but the Canadian democracy, the US democracy, they're both systems that still contain some flaws. So an insightful student, an E student, will recognize some of these scandals from the past and will respond to them with some suggestions for a revised version of democracy for the future. And that's why we're looking at challenges within democracy today, looking at the idea of accountability. Thanks for watching.